My daughter's fiancé said, "We only want important people," the night before the $100,000 wedding vanished. I still remember the night before my daughter's wedding, the night that changed everything. The ballroom was almost ready, draped in ivory silk and golden lights. The florist had just left after setting the final arrangements, and the entire place smelled like lilies and roses. It was supposed to be perfect. My daughter, Olivia, was marrying Daniel, a man from a wealthy, well-connected family. From the very beginning, his parents had insisted on an extravagant event. They called it a wedding for the elite. Olivia wasn't like that. She would have been happy getting married in the backyard with fairy lights and a simple dress. But Daniel wanted memorable. And since I could afford it, after all, my husband left us well provided for, I agreed. I wrote the checks. Every vendor, every flower, every piece of silverware, paid for. Over $100,000 went into making my daughter's day perfect. But that night, when I went to the rehearsal dinner, Daniel's words made my blood run cold. The dinner was at a fancy restaurant downtown, full of people I didn't recognize. Daniel's business partners, his father's colleagues, even a few local politicians. I sat at a corner table, watching Olivia glow. She was beautiful in her soft blue dress, smiling as she thanked the guests for coming. That's when I overheard Daniel talking to his mother near the bar. "Did you finalize the seating chart?" she asked. "Yes," he replied. "I took out some of Olivia's guests. We only want important people there." I froze. His mother nodded approvingly. "Good. We can't have that crowd from her side embarrassing us in front of the media." That crowd. He was talking about our family. My sister, who raised Olivia after my husband passed. My late husband's brothers. My best friend since college. I tried to stay calm. I walked over and said quietly, "Daniel, I just heard something about the guest list." He smiled, that fake charming smile he always wore around me. "Oh, Mrs. Hart, don't worry about that. We just made a few adjustments to keep the event, exclusive." "Exclusive?" I asked. He shrugged. "My parents have a lot of high-profile friends. We want this to reflect our image. No offense, but we can't have people who don't exactly fit in." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Daniel, those are Olivia's family and friends." He chuckled. "She'll understand. It's just one day." That was the first time I saw Olivia's future through the cracks, not as love, but as control. Later that evening, I found Olivia alone in her hotel suite. She was sitting by the window, staring at the city lights. "Mom," she whispered, "I don't think I can do this." My heart sank. What happened? She hesitated, eyes welling with tears. "Daniel changed the seating plan. He said he didn't want to offend his guests by inviting too many of ours. He called Aunt Lisa ordinary. He said my dad's side didn't match their circle." Her voice broke. "He said we should be grateful he's marrying down." I sat beside her, speechless. This was the man she wanted to spend her life with. And now, hours before the wedding, he was showing who he really was. "Do you love him?" I asked quietly. She nodded, but her hands were shaking. "I thought I did, but now I don't even recognize him." We sat in silence for a long time. Then I told her, "You don't have to go through with this. Money doesn't build a marriage. Respect does." She shook her head. "Mom, it's too late. Everything's paid for. Everyone's here." I took her hands and said, "It's never too late to protect your peace." The next morning was chaos. Photographers, makeup artists, planners, all buzzing around the hotel suite. But Olivia wasn't herself. She smiled for the cameras, but I could see her eyes were distant. Daniel arrived with his parents for the pre-ceremony photos. His mother gave me a tight smile and said, "Thank you for funding this. You've done such a generous thing for our families." Something about her tone, smug, condescending, made my stomach twist. An hour before the ceremony, I asked the planner for a copy of the final guest list. She looked uncomfortable, but handed it over. Half the names from our side were missing. Even my late husband's best friend, the man who helped raise Olivia, wasn't listed. I walked outside to clear my head, but as I passed the groom's suite, I heard laughter. Daniel's voice. He was on the phone with someone. "Yeah, man, after tomorrow I'm set. Her mom's paying for everything. It's basically an investment. Once I have access to her accounts, we can start on that property deal." Yeah, she's naive, but she's good for appearances. I stopped breathing. He wasn't marrying my daughter for love. He was marrying her for money. I went back to Olivia's room, my hands trembling. She looked up, eyes wide. Mom, what's wrong? I told her everything. The call, the words, the plan. She didn't cry right away. She just stared at me, blank, silent, then whispered, "So, all of this was a lie." I nodded. She took off her veil, threw it onto the chair, and said, "I can't marry him." That's when Daniel walked in, still wearing that arrogant grin. "Ladies, what's with the faces? We've got a wedding to start." Olivia stood tall. "There's not going to be a wedding." He froze. "What are you talking about?" "I know why you're really marrying me," she said. "It's over." He laughed. "You're being dramatic. Everything's set. You can't just cancel." I stepped forward. "We can, and we have." I handed him an envelope, copies of his phone call transcript from the hotel staff's security feed. I'd already sent it to his father. His face drained of color. "You think you can humiliate me?" he hissed. "You did that to yourself," I said quietly. Within an hour, the vendors were canceled. Guests were notified that the event was postponed due to unforeseen circumstances. Daniel tried calling Olivia dozens of times. She didn't answer once. By evening, his family released a statement claiming creative differences, as if this were some kind of business deal. The next day, I called every vendor and asked for refunds. Some couldn't return full amounts, but that didn't matter. I didn't want a single cent of that day to belong to him. I donated the flowers to a nearby hospital and the food to a local shelter. That was the wedding's true legacy, kindness, not vanity. Months later, Daniel's so-called property deal collapsed. His family's business took a hit, and his reputation quietly crumbled. Olivia, meanwhile, started therapy. She went back to school, found work in social services, and began rebuilding her confidence. One day, she told me, "Mom, I thought losing that wedding would destroy me, but it saved me." I smiled. "You didn't lose a wedding, sweetheart. You escaped a lifetime of being unloved." A year later, we went to a small beachside cafe, just the two of us. She wore a simple dress, no jewelry, no makeup. She looked peaceful. "Do you ever regret it?" I asked. "Not for a second," she said. "That day, when I said no, I finally felt free." I reached across the table and took her hand. "That's all I ever wanted for you, to be free and to know your worth." She smiled softly. "You taught me that." As the sun set behind her, I realized something. Maybe all the money, all the grandeur, all the wasted effort, it was never for nothing. Because it led her to a moment of clarity, of strength. And that, to me, was worth far more than a $100,000 wedding.